Born 1942, director, producer, writer, editor, actor, film historian. Do you recall the first time that you saw a film and were conscious of the impression it was making on you?
Well, I think it was probably in the 46 or 47, as has been noted before, I guess, and having had serious asthma since the age of 2.5 or 3, and some lung damage prior to that. They were very, my parents were very protective, and they were working class, worked in the garment district of New York. And so the idea was to make sure that I didn't run or laugh. Well, if you laugh, you can't catch your breath, and then, you know, you start to... So, so naturally, it made me aware of laughing, running. And sure enough, it was a problem. So the only thing probably pretty much they could do for me was to keep an eye on me, school, and primarily the movie theaters. Part of that for me as a child, of course, this is a child's experience, was the use of color. And in those days, color was used for musicals or westerns, or very, very seldom for other types of pictures. But it was a trailer of Roy Rogers and Trigger. Trigger jumping over a log, you know, the horse, and the Palomino. Palomino, for those of you who may not know, it's like a blonde horse with white hair, right? Yeah. White mane and tail, gorgeous. I mean, if you want a horse, that's, I mean, this is England, it's a different thing. But I mean, for the American West, and Roy Rogers is wearing, you know, turquoise or whatever, and fringe, yeah, this looks fantastic. And then the next thing I remember is the vivid trauma of seeing Duel in the Sun on its first release. Condemned by the church in America, lambasted, I guess, by the critics, and there it was, up. It was like a scandalous film, apparently. And I remember I was being traumatized by the picture, and particularly the music and the use of color, the yellow of the sun, particularly in the credits. I mean, I enjoyed it, I liked it, but it was a very disturbing. I remember being frightened by the shootout at the end between Jennifer Jones and Gregory Peck. But I guess that explains most of what I do in most of my life. So,
so then going to NYU, you were presumably at that point exposed to films from all over. I mean, more than it might have been at the local film house or on the television.
Right around that time, I was seeing foreign films on television too. Beauty and the Beast, Cocteau, Les Enfants du Paradis, Ugetsu. That's the first Japanese film I saw. But I did find that I couldn't resist seeing things in pictures and drawing pictures and trying to make films on paper, and actually borrowing a friend of mine's 8mm camera and trying to make a film with my friends. It was absurd and ridiculous, but we did it. And so NYU, at Washington Square College, that division of NYU, if one could pay the tuition, you know, my father had some savings for that. He was able to do it with some student loans. There was one professor there, Haig Manoujian, who was Armenian American, and he had a lot of energy, and he was highly inspirational. I think the thing is, the idea is, if you can latch onto a mentor, and if you really feel that you have that passion to do it, and the mentor feels that, mentor, professor, teacher, whatever, to give you the help to express yourself, to make you believe in yourself, to do it. It doesn't mean you can do it right, wrong, whatever, but it's encouraging that fire. And I was very lucky to find this particular person.
Now, Mean Streets originally, I gather, the idea was not to set it in an Italian-American.
Oh no, always was. It was originally this black and white film that I tried to make called, eventually was called Who's That Knocking at My Door, with Harvey Keitel, Zena Bethune. And that took about 3 or 4 years to put together, and my professor and everybody helped us, Haig Manoujian, Thelma. We met at NYU.
This is Thelma Schoonmaker.
Thelma Schoonmaker, my editor, and so we were all putting this thing together. But many of the things that I really wanted to do and that I couldn't, so I started to formulate another script, another aspect of it, of that life and that lifestyle downtown, and people I knew, myself, my friends. And that became Mean Streets, and I was urged to do that by John Cassavetes, who loved Who's That Knocking, which I have very, very mixed feelings about, but he liked the film a lot. He was very encouraging. And when he saw Boxcar, I showed it to him right away, Boxcar Bertha. He told me, you spent a year of your life, you know, making a piece of shit, he said. So Well, first, interesting about encouragement. First he said, come here. Get on, embrace me, mwah, kiss me. You know, and then he said, now, pull me by the shoulders. You just spent a year of your life doing something. I said, ah. He said, I know it looks good, and you like the girl in it, and the actors are nice, what you did with them, but you don't make that kind of film. You've got to do things like knocking. You know, you got something you want to do. I said, yeah, we're working on it for a few years. Well, get an actor in it and try to work it so that you get a name actor, and the same old story. You have to, you know, and that was it.
What do you mean? Michael's been on my back all night. He's bothering me. Why didn't you make your payment last Tuesday?
What do you mean? I made my payment last Tuesday. What are you talking about?
You paid him last week?
Yeah, I paid him last week. Well, what did he say? He said I didn't pay him? He's a fucking liar. Where is he?
You paid him
Yeah, I paid him.
last week.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday.
Yeah. Charlie, you don't know what
He's here,
Where?
out front.
He's here?
Yeah.
So what do I do?
All right, let me go get him. We'll straighten this thing out, all right?
Hey, wait a minute, Charlie.
What?
Well, you're right.
I'm right.
Yeah, was it last Tuesday?
Yeah, that's the Tuesday. That was last week. That's before the one that's about to come up.
My mistake. I'm sorry. Forgive me. It was last week, the week before that I was thinking of, yeah.
Oh, yeah, was it, huh?
That's right. That's right.
That dialogue developed in rehearsal because it wasn't written in the script why Keitel's character, Charlie, would support or help or be responsible for this character, basically, who doesn't care about anybody or anything at that point in his life. He's kind of anarchy in a way, with no way to break out, you know, just to behave badly. And it goes more, it's deeper than that. But in any event, De Niro asked me, he said, is there any place where we could put something in that shows how the power he has over Charlie, or the power, the way he speaks, the way they say, yeah, in this area right after. And so we worked on that, and that was shot the last day. We squeezed it in the last day of shooting. We had to beg for another half day of shooting. And also the use of music, the high speed, all of that being influenced, I guess, by how I saw that life when I was living it. Because as I was going to Washington Square College, I was also living that. And balance between the two is 1959 to 1965. All of those years, very, very key years for me. And music, of course, it's the decline of the 50s rock and roll and the beginnings of the girl groups and that sort of thing. The Ronettes, Phil Spector, which is the beginning of the film here, used in the beginning of the film. And then the British invasion, quote unquote. And 63 is the assassination of Kennedy. Vietnam, everything starting. So that period was very interesting. It was still like the 50s until Kennedy got killed, see, in a way. And things kind of changed. But in any event, this is the way I saw it. I saw it in red. I saw it high speed. I saw it that way. And I heard the music in my head when I saw or experienced things, whether it was in my apartment, my parents, my brother, or my aunts and uncles. There were many of them. Life on the street, just looking out from the third floor window of the tenement we lived in, which is still there. And the influence of French and Italian films and Russian.
The next thing we're going to see is that your documentary about your parents from 1974, Italian-American. Now, they obviously were very supportive of your film career, and your mother actually appears, well, I know she appears in Mean Streets, doesn't she?
Yeah,
She gives...
Well, they had no choice. I mean, no, and they don't know what to do with me. I mean, I wasn't, first he's going to be a priest, and then he's going to get married, then he's not going to get married, then he's going to go here, then he's going to do this. Now he is married, now he's not. What is he doing? He's with these other people, but they seem like nice people, and they like his movies. They thought I was completely mad. They really did. I heard him speaking one night.
But they were happy with the idea that you would come and make a documentary in the apartment.
No, it's my son's friend. He wants to come and take some pictures.
Okay.
That's their mind. So this is a long story as to why the film was made, but I learned a lot from it, particularly from the very, very beginning of it.
We should slate it, don't you think?
Rolling?
Okay, is that the light?
Where are you sitting? Down there? Why? Why is he down there?
He can do what he wants. Let him do what he wants.
Why are you so far from me?
Okay. All right,
Get
so
closer. No, you come here. That's it. That's more like it. lovey-dovey sort of, you know. They say as you get older, your love grows stronger. So for some reason, it is getting a little stronger, you know. Right, Daddy? He's bashful.
Yeah, I know. Well, I wanted to start. You were going to tell us about the sauce. You were going to show us how to do the sauce.
Well, what should I say?
Well, you're gonna get up and show it to us. But I wanted to know who, how did you learn it?
Well, what do you ask me?
About the sauce. How did you learn how to make sauce?
Well, I'm supposed to be talking to you?
You could talk to me. You could talk to them. It doesn't matter. I'll be over here. I'll be over here.
Shall I mention your name?
No, doesn't matter. Yeah, you mentioned my name. Yeah.
You want? What should I say? You want me to know? You want me to tell you how I learned how to make sauce?
How did you learn
Well,
how to make sauce?
why don't you ask me the question? Don't you hear that then?
No.
I mean, if you would ask me a question, I would answer.
I'm gonna say it now.
Right?
I want to know how you learned how to make sauce. Who taught you? Who taught it to you? How long? I mean, how many years you've been doing it? And I want to see you do it.
Well, you know, when you first get married, you're really not much of a cook. I watched my mother make sauce. I watched my mother-in-law. I got a lot from my mother-in-law, a lot from the family.
She got more than my mother, from my mother than my mother.
See, there he goes putting his mother in again.
All right, let's go inside and let's see.
So now, if you want me to
Yeah, come on.
show you, I'll come and show you how I make the sauce.
There were two different cooks anyway.
That's pretty much what's like on set. what I do, It's what I do with the actors and work with them. I just found, different kinds of technique. Certain actors have different kinds of technique, and you have to work around that. But over the years, I found that that's pretty much it. I'm pretty much like her, or the guy trying to ask a question. This was done as a public service film or something for a series of a nation of immigrants, or something like Storm of Strangers was called, I think. A series of documentaries to be made for public television with no budgets, very, very little. And one for the Chinese Americans, Jewish American, Italian, and that sort of thing, Irish. And so they asked me to do the Italian one based on Main Streets, I think. And I said I'd do it if I could find a different way, rather than showing people arriving at Ellis Island and talking about the great nature of the strong heart of the peasants who came here. And that's basically, it's true, but I said, what if we just have like an afternoon dinner in my mother's and father's apartment on Elizabeth Street, which was a newer apartment. That furniture, they'd just gotten that furniture. And it just had the plastic seat covers on it. Because the old furniture came from the 1940s and 50s. It was it was across the street. Then they moved across the street after 25 years. But in any event, I said, yeah, and my friends and I came up with a number of questions. And asking the idea of the sauce was important because the nature of the Italian American, or we're in case Sicilians, was that usually on a Sunday afternoon, you had family dinner, and that all revolved around the sauce itself, and what's in the sauce, what's the ingredients are that week, the type of pasta you would have. So a sauce would probably start the day before, and there'll be a lot of discussion during the week about what the menu would be that day and who would be coming around. Also, if you're in a tenement, particularly in the summertime, there was never any air conditioning or stuff like that. In America now, it's all, but the doors were open, so people would come by from the other apartments. If you were in speaking terms. Some of them you weren't with speaking terms, but you weren't on speaking terms. But in any event, people would come in, have something. No, people, I just ate, I can't, what do you got? No, I bring this in, I have. So it was a constant flurry of people. Sometimes it was enjoyable. For the most part, it was pretty oppressive, but it was pretty interesting.
So was the sauce not a metaphor?
So the sauce had to start the film. Ultimately, at the end of the film, I just put the recipe up and the credits.
We're going to push on to Taxi Driver. And Paul Schrader, obviously, your first encounter with Paul Schrader. Now, this is a case of us seeing, it is very much a post-Vietnam film, isn't it? It's a film about a man trying to put things right in the way that the lone gun used to in America, but the lone gun had sort of failed to do in Vietnam. Is that right?
Yes, but I think...
it's more, obviously.
I think it's much more than that. Yes. Vietnam happens to be the place he was in. It could be Afghanistan now, or it could be Cromwell in Ireland. It could be, you know what I'm saying? It's the nature of what you are and what that thinking and that life and also the zealousness too of believing a certain thing and having it smashed completely, and you come back, you're left alone. I thought for a while making the film a black and white video because we just couldn't get the money for it. And then finally, when I think De Niro was able to we slipped it in, we figured, well, it's a labor of love. Nobody really is going to respond to it, I guess, but it has to be made because we all had a very strong attachment to it. We didn't verbalize, we never verbalized, myself and De Niro, but we really felt that it was something that we all are living through.
Faster than you. Saw you coming, you shitheel. I'm standing here. You make the move. You make the move. It's your move. I'll try it, you. You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
Literally, I'm sitting at his feet. There's a mirror behind me and the camera, and there's a window, and that's it. And it was, again, the last week of shooting, and we went an hour and a half too long, and our AD was a great, very famous one at the time, Pete Scopa, was banging on the door. Come on, we've got to go. I said, I know, but I think this is really good. Just give us another 5 minutes. All right, but they're going to kill us. Like, okay. So, I mean, it was always under that incredible pressure. He said, you're talking to me. And we started doing the business with the gun, which is scripted. Which, I got you, whatever. He's doing that with his face. And he suddenly got into a rhythm, particularly, are you talking to me? And I remember saying, again. And I'm not saying that I told him to say it again, but I kept on asking him. What we often do is just have the actor repeat it. We do it now where, take one has 6 times, 7 times in it, or 5 times. So you create the atmosphere, and you make it as easy as possible for them to take their time if they're onto something. Take the time, even if you have to get out of there in 15 minutes. That's the thing. If the actor, or he or she, is moving and they're on a level that you feel is just taking it to transcendental moments. I mean, for the film, I'm talking about, but for the experience that I'm having there, I know that. I could tell that. And part of that energy is the panic of getting out of there. And he's just going to take his time, and he's going to raise that gun, and he's going to say, I saw you coming, And I really knew he had something when he said, I know you're talking to me because I'm the only one here. And I said, well, in effect, in the film, he is the only one. He's realized he's the only one there, and he is talking to himself. So that says it.
The Last Waltz, which was the film you made about the band's farewell concert.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, music was already, playing a very important part in your films, and your sensitivity to the way that you use music. Obviously, clearly, you were a fan of the band, and so how did you want to shoot this concert in a different way?
First of all, I didn't think it was going to be a film. I thought we would record it for posterity, for the band itself and the guests they were going to have. Each guest was Robbie's idea. I think each guest would represent different influences of music from around the country that influenced the music of the band, and Bob Dylan too. And so I thought this was incredible, and particularly if you have people from Muddy Waters to Joni Mitchell and Eric Clapton and Dylan, and we didn't know who was going to pay for it, really. UA wasn't involved at the time, United Artists, they were not. I said, let's think about it. Let's think about doing it in 35 millimeter. And we placed 6 cameras in position. And a 7th camera was Dave Meyers, who was a great director, cinematographer, who also worked on Woodstock and many other films. And he was doing a bit of a handheld. And he got that great shot of Levon Helm singing Ophelia from behind the drum with the light and the cymbal. He just held it. He knows when to hold the shot. He knows not to go this way. Oh, it's enough of that. I mean, hold it. Take in the performer. Take in the eyes of the performer. Feel the energy of it. The lighting, the atmosphere. You can't teach a person that.
I'm grown. No beat. No. child. Why? That mean mannish boy. Man, I'm a full-grown man. Man.
The place started to shake with the music. He knew to hold back that frame and move it slowly. And then he reveals Butterfield again, and Robertson with his guitar in his hand, going, and the backup man who's screaming, yeah, all the time. It really, to study the performers in one frame, and just the study, even though it's a profile of Muddy Waters' face, it's a record of a performance, and also it's the incantation. It's religious. It goes back to, it's like incantation chanting. It's Alexander the Great, you know, stirring his men up to battle. It's all that comes from our humanity, that, in a sense, the shaman, the one who takes over, the one who takes your soul over, in a way, he or she, who can fire up an audience for good or bad.
10-rounder. LaMotta drives both hands to the head. Hurts Robinson again. Hooks the left hand to the jaw, right to the body. Robinson comes back with a right on the nose. LaMotta drives him across the ring. A left and a right to the head, a hard left hand to the body, and Robinson is driven out of the ring for the first knockdown of his career. This is the nearest Robinson has been to a loss. The fight nears its end. LaMotta has taken charge of the fight. The undefeated Sugar Ray. His winning ways are in jeopardy. LaMotta coming at him again. LaMotta feigning left hand.
Particularly in that scene, the use of sound effects. Frank Warner was a great sound effects editor, and we just kept trying to figure out what to do with Frank. And during the mixing took a long time because I hadn't really figured out the sound effects. And Frank was coming up with all these suggestions. This one you hear at one point, particularly when there's a sort of savage blow by LaMotta towards the end of that second fight, as those are screams of elephants.
Fight being knocked down. Robinson is well ahead on point.
Elephants, tigers screeching backwards, you know, melons, all kinds of things being hit that Frank worked on. And I also stretched the ring. We made the ring 2 or 3 times its normal size because of the footwork of Sugar Ray. He was known for his footwork, and I said, I can't get enough of it. I said, well, yeah, we'll just build the ring 2 or 3 times the size. And nobody will know because you're going to be stretching it. You're cutting it back and forth. And so the ring is stretched that you can see in many of the shots. And there are 2 technical things that are pretty interesting. One where we changed the speed of the camera, and De Niro's lifting his trunks like this, and he's looking while Sugar Ray is getting back up on the ground, on the mat. That is done by changing the speed from 24 frames to maybe 48 or 40, but you also had to change the aperture and the f-stop. Now that was done before you had the buttons that you could do. You press the button now and it could go automatically. So you had to have three people on the camera as you were doing that. Plus De Niro had to be into that mode because before every shot he would have a punching bag lowered and punch, and then jump into the frame, ready to shoot. So this is before video assist, before any of that. And Michael Chapman as the cinematographer. Now about 9 or 10 minutes of film really ultimately winds up in the picture in terms of the fight scenes, but it took 10 weeks to shoot the fight scenes. I mean, for me, there was no difference between the ring and the kitchen and the sidewalk and the street and a car and the bedroom. It's all the same. So, and different levels of intensity. And so the ring is just, that's an aside from what he does in his life. That's like oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to go fight Sugar Ray. Yeah, I'll see you later. That's it. Now he's going to go home. He's going to do his brother, his wife, his parents. It's just the man's struggle. It's a man's struggle and a man looking for something. Ultimately, by the end of the picture, I think he finds at least a little comfort with himself.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll see you later. Thanks.
What are you doing? You leaving your car?
Watch the car for me. It's easier than leaving it at a garage and waiting. It's a lot quicker that way. You know what I mean? Huh? I like going this way, better than waiting in the line. doing? Good, good. There you go. How you doing, Gino? All right, good, good. Hey. Every time I come here, every time you do, don't you work?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Hi, how are you? Anthony, right in the front.
Great, great, thanks.
Anything you need, Anthony, just let me know.
Hey, how come we can't get...
I know you're late. I'll be right with
Good, good. How you doing?
You gave them $20 each.
It's all right.
Henry, this is what Mr. Tony over there.
Where?
Over there.
Oh, thanks a lot, Tony. Thank you. Salute.
What do you do?
What?
What do you do?
I'm in construction.
Goodfellas was, I read the review of the book, and when I was doing Color and Money, Nick Pileggi's book, Wise Guy, Irwin Winkler and I were talking. He said, "Do you like that book?" I said, "Yeah." Irwin buys it. Irwin's the producer of Raging Bull, New York, New York, ultimately Goodfellas, Rocky, all these movies. And he bought it. I got to meet Nick, and I had a way of making the picture. I just knew it. And we worked on the script together for like a year and a half or so. And there was a paragraph, and I had designed pretty much all the shots. It was almost, shooting the movie was almost an afterthought, except for the improvisation sometimes with the actors, and particularly the section that Joe Pesci wanted to put in, which is, "Do you think I'm funny?" Which actually had happened to Joe. And so we worked on that and wrote it up and added that scene. But basically, the idea of his taking it to the Copacabana, this is like to the court of Versailles. I mean, he's like next to the king in a way. And he's treated like the highest courtier. And he's like, I don't know, I had gone to the Copa a lot. The Copa, when I was growing up in my area, was considered, you can't get me. That's it. That is Valhalla. That's the, you can't get me. You might as well kill a dog, put it at your feet. Burn the whole place. That's a Viking funeral. Let's go. That's, the gods are there. Sinatra performs there. What more do you want? I don't understand. When we were old enough in our late teens to get in there, especially for proms at the end of the school, at the end of high school, let's say, 4 years. A few times we got a table and it was in the front. We thought, this is great. They're close to the front anyway. You could see something. It was amazing. And just when the show was about to start, the table would come in and these big guys would come and sit down. And we never got to the front.
We're going to go to your Bob Dylan documentary, No Direction Home.
Oh, okay. I came from a very closed area. The first time I heard Bob Dylan was Like a Rolling Stone, which was electric. So I had to go back and hear the other, because I wasn't around that. And in any event, the 10-hour interview that Jeff Rosen did with Dylan, which is a close-up of his face, and when I saw the 5 or 6 selected hours or so of it, I liked the face, and I've always liked that because it kept changing, the shape changer in a way. And I liked the way he made statements that, I don't know, they might be true for that moment, but maybe not 20 seconds later or 10 seconds later, or it's an aspect of the quote, truth, unquote. And I could see his eyes moving that way, back and forth. I thought, this is extraordinary. I was also interested in the idea of Judas, the idea of the betrayer. What happened to Woody Guthrie Bob, get off the stage, you know, you betrayed us, you have to do what we want. You have to do what we want, not what you want. You speak for us. No, I don't, he said. Conflict was the issue. Conflict was Judas. He said, you don't really mean that, do you? He said, yes, you know. What did he do to be called Judas on stage by everybody? And during, you can't hear in the mix here, but when he's singing there on stage, they're booing constantly. That's why he's cupping his hand to the mic so you can hear the lyrics. They're just booing and booing and booing and booing.
These are all protest songs now, come on. It's not British music, it's American music. Now, come on.
Spool on to, most recently, Shutter Island, which is, although taken from a Dennis Lehane novel, it seems to me to be such a powerful study of the mind and character, obviously, as well. Informed very much by film noir, films like Out of the Past?
Well, I think so, but it's been misunderstood. What I do is I'm able to express myself, for better or for worse, in visual images, in narrative cinema. That's what I do. I've done other things. I wish I could play music and compose music. I wish I could paint. Writing would be extraordinary. I don't do it. And when I do that, or because I do that, or that is what is around me, I look at films. And when I look at a film, I've been very open to many people over the years, say, you must see this, you must see that, you must see this picture, and I'm going to sit down with you. It's, besides the enthusiasm of enjoying younger people witnessing, let's say, Max Ophuls Caught, you know, or some spectacle or something, it's very difficult to describe how inspiration hits you, where it comes from. And very often it may be, I need to see 3 films in a row. Years ago, it was that way. We'd screen and screen and screen, and something would hit. Not that I was even looking for anything. I mean, the issue is, if Teddy is imagining, or if that, it's not even imagining, to Teddy, that's real. This is all real.
Because we're inside.
We're inside him. Yeah. And if a person has something here, and they hear voices, those voices are real. That is real. There are times that I've seen something go by, and it wasn't there, but I could swear it was real. I mean, because of being tired, starting to wear glasses, you see things differently. It's you know, so it's our perception of reality, particularly in an age when we have all this internet, we have all this information coming at us, and there is no such thing as a true image. Everything's doctored. Everything could be doctored. We can't trust anything. So how do we perceive reality? What is reality? Now let's take you through this man's life.
Are you real?
No. She's still here.
Who? Rachel?
She never left. Remember when we stayed in the cabin in the summer, Teddy? We were so happy. She's here. You can't leave.
I'm not gonna leave. I love you so much.
I'm just bones in a box, Teddy.
No.
I am. Wake up.
All of these scenes were, once we started doing them, particularly, had infinite amount of levels to them, particularly the actors, so that if you look at the film, if you're so inclined, and if you like the picture, you could look at it 2 or 3 times. You'll see different films, really. And what Thelma was able to do with the editing back and forth myself, we had, watch when we cut to Dr. Cawley, and when we cut to Chuck, the beginnings of the dreams, all of these things. And I think that as a man, a marshal, a detective, quote unquote, who came out of World War II, who did go, who was there at, Dachau, at the liberation, he sees the world a certain way. Also the issue of dreams. How does one show a dream in a film? Going back to, I think, one of the great ones in Los Olvidados, Buñuel, with the mother at night on the beds, with the children trying to reach this raw meat that she had because it was so hungry. Zero de Conduite, all of these films. So how do you do, it's got to be real, but at the same time there are ashes falling in the room, and then she's turning to a cinder. I mean, Rob did all that. Rob Logano and our CGI effects. But to keep the CGI within a sense of reality, then a dream like that cuts across time and space so quickly that they're going to know it's a dream. There's no way. There's no two ways. I mean, King of Comedy, the fantasies, for example, with Rupert Pupkin, the fantasies with Jerry, particularly, were done straight, completely. You couldn't tell the difference between that and the reality because they are real. I say they're very, very real. But here, once you have ash falling and she's talking about she's here, she never left. We decided to go pump the color in Kodachrome. Bob Richardson and I, and Rob, we worked it out so that the color in the dreams would be so vivid for that period. The Kodachrome is so bright and strong. It's rather different from what we think of noir, but that's what the color was like in
And do you think colour can actually have, I mean, when we think of Powell and Pressburger films particularly,
Yes.
do you think it actually can have almost like a synesthetic
Oh,
effect
absolutely,
when-
yeah. I think whether it's a restrained use of color or something that is more expressive, as in The Red Shoes, or in Life and Death of Colonel Blamp, or certainly in Black Narcissus, color is used, it's palpable, and it's erotic, and it's shocking at times, and it pushes, and it has a narrative of its own. It does. I don't know. I'm saying I can use it because I grew up in black and white films mainly, but we really started to use color. That's why I got into the whole color fading and the preservation thing at the time in the late 70s, because when you could not make a film in black and white anymore, and we had to, it was a big struggle to make Raging Bull in black and white, that's when the film stock and everything else was so cheaply done that it would fade within 5 or 6 years. So all the design that you put into the color is gone. So we changed all that, and ultimately Eastman Kodak is extraordinary, and of course digital has other problems. But they became aware of that, mainly because they became aware that they could, we worked it out in 1990, went to all the studios and talked to each studio head, and they became aware that they could, sell their assets to the public. They could show them the movies in new forms.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure listening.
Thank you.
to
Sorry to talk
talking
too fast.
No, not at all. Thank you very much.